All right, I think we are good. I think we're good. All right, can you guys hear me? It says the audio is coming through. Is the music going? Is it too loud? Is it too soft? Is it just right? All right, let's see. Dun, dun. That was almost catastrophic. Good, beautiful. Mikkel. Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. We are scary monsters indeed. I mean, that is true. That's a fact. That is a fact. All right, let me get Discord. TikTok, go to YouTube. Get off TikTok. Same username. We're talking about reincarnation this evening. Because all Christians believe in reincarnation. That's a fact. This should be good. I grew up in a new age cult called Self-Realization Fellowship that believes in reincarnation. So that's been my standard up till getting saved in 2016. Man, that would be great to hear about that. We should have a well, we're planning a cult episode because Kat is very much into cults. She's not in a cult, but she's into cults, so it's something we got to talk about. But Danny, if you'd be down to come on and talk about your experience, that would be awesome. That'd be very interesting. All right, let's see. Is this good? No, of course not. Why would it work? Why would it be that easy, man? Ah, there we go. Beautiful. Welcome to the cult. Yeah, Danny left one cult just to join a different cult. The irony. The irony. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry. Okay. All right. So here's a brief overview of kind of the way Maze, what's going on, of the way that maybe it's not the best way, but it's the way we're going to approach this. So we're going to kind of cover just what is reincarnation. I feel like everybody kind of has a general idea of what it is. So we're just going to briefly cover that. TikTok, go to YouTube, get off TikTok. Go over what reincarnation is, and then we're going to talk about the 5 major religions that believe in it. It's a part of their core beliefs. And then I have information on all 5 of those. So if there's any one of those 5 that you guys want to go deeper into, we can do that. I also have a study on beliefs in afterlife. So that covers things that are reincarnation, but also other just afterlife beliefs. The study was done by Pew Research. It's very interesting. So we're going to run through some of that too. In full transparency, I haven't read all of it. So we'll kind of be skimming through it together. If any of it is more interesting than others, you guys can kind of tell me and we'll dig into that part deeper. But I looked at some of just the graphs and the charts, and it was an interesting breakdown. So we'll cover some of that. And then anybody who wants to add to this verbally, you can get in the voice channel on Discord. It's open. I'm in there. If you choose to come in, just make sure you're muted when you do. Let me get the music out of my ears because it's very distracting. If you join the voice channel too, you got to let me know in YouTube because I have it muted on the stream. So your voice isn't going to come through until I unmute that. So reincarnation, also called transmigration in religion and philosophy, rebirth of the aspect of an individual that persists after bodily death, whether it be consciousness, mind, soul, or some other entity in one or more successive existences. Depending upon the tradition, these existences may be human, animal, spiritual, or in some instances, vegetable. Like vegetables. Not kidding. Not kidding. For real. While belief in reincarnation is most characteristic of South Asian and East Asian traditions, it also appears in the religious and philosophical thought of the local religions. And some ancient Middle Eastern religions, one example, is Greek mystery or salvation as a religion. They have a little bit of reincarnation up in there. Gnosticism, it exists within that idea set, as well as such modern religious movements as Theosophy. So one thing Kat asked me today, she's like, is reincarnation in the Torah? The answer is kind of yes and no. In the same way that Christians have kind of bastardized the Bible to the point that now, and as an example, and I'm not picking on them, whatever, but in the same way or in a similar way as now there's a big movement within like the LGBTQ movement towards saying the Bible is not only neutral on things like gay marriage or like, you know, trans ideology, not only neutral, but that the Bible is positive about them, that it supports them like in an actionable way. It's not just a neutral agreeance of. So similar to that, Judaism has a similar thing. So Kabbalah, there are sects of Judaism where they do believe in reincarnation. But if you take it to the Torah, if the Torah is the end all be all, using as good of exegetical and hermeneutic practices as you can, no, it's not. Are there some arguments you can make? Sure. But are there arguments you can make about anything? Yeah. Like the LGBTQ ideology where they're saying the Bible is positive towards these ideas. We can twist anything, is the point. So within the Jewish belief, within Judaism, reincarnation is not a thing. However, it does exist. There are sects of Judaism who do believe in reincarnation, and they will say it comes from the Torah. In my opinion, it's pretty hard pressed. Among the ancient Greeks, the Orphic mystery religion held that a pre-existent soul survives bodily death and is later reincarnated in a human or other mammalian body, eventually receiving release from the cycle of birth and death and regaining its former pure state. Plato, in the 5th and 4th century BCE, believed in an immortal soul that participates in frequent incarnations. The major religions that hold a belief in reincarnation, however, are mostly Asian religions, especially Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism, and Sikhism, all of which arose in India. So these are central to India. Just like most religious beliefs, at least in the beginning, are central to a geographical area. They all hold a common doctrine of what? Actually, that's a good question. Of all the major religions that subscribe to reincarnation as a theory, what is the one doctrine you guys think they all have in common? I'm curious. So of all the religions that believe in reincarnation, it's a part of their belief system. They all share one doctrine. What is it? Guess. I'm going to wait. Because I'm really curious to kind of see where you guys land. What do they all have in common? It's a term. It's basically a law of I'll give you a cheat. Here's a cheat. It's the law of cause and effect. What is the doctrine? You're going to kick yourself when I say it. All religions that share reincarnation share, they share more than this, but there's one absolute shared doctrine based on the law of cause and effect. Boom, Danny. Nailed it. Yeah, mystic, yep. It's karma. They all hold one common doctrine, and that is karma, which also means act. The law of cause and effect, which states that one does in this present life will have its effect in the next life. In Hinduism, the process of birth and rebirth, i.e. transmigration of souls, is endless until one achieves moksha, or liberation, which literally means release. So they get released from the cycle, from the process. Moksha is achieved when one realizes that the eternal core of the individual, Atman, and the absolute reality, Brahman, are one. Thus, one can escape from the process of death and rebirth, or samsara. In Jainism, reflecting a belief in an eternal and transmigrating life principle, jiva, that is akin to an individual soul, holds that karma is a fine particulate substance that settles upon the jiva according to the deeds that a person does. That's karmic. That's karma. Thus, the burden of the old karma is added to the new karma that is acquired during the next existence, until the jiva frees itself by religious disciplines, especially by ahimsa, or non-violence, and rises to the place of liberated jivas at the top of the universe. Although Buddhism denies the existence of an unchanging substantial soul or self as against the notion of the Atman, it teaches the concept of anatman. So let me see, there's a note here. Oh, interesting. So it's polar. So non-self. Anatman would be non-self. It holds to a belief in the transmigration of the karma that is accumulated by an individual in life. The individual is a composition of 5 ever-changing psychophysical elements and states they call bundles. They call them bundles. For example, form, sensations, perceptions, impulses, and consciousness, and terminates with death. So they believe these things terminate upon death. The karma of the deceased, however, persists and becomes a vijnana, or germ of consciousness, in the womb of a mother. So I'm gonna read that again, because that's an interesting thing to understand about the Buddhist view. The karma of the deceased persists and becomes a germ of consciousness in the womb of a mother. So it continues. The vijnana is that aspect of consciousness that is reborn in a new individual. By gaining a state of complete passiveness through discipline and meditation, one can achieve what? Nirvana. The state of the extinction of desires and liberation, moksha, from bondage to samsara by karma. So there's a little taste of Hinduism, Jainism, Buddhism. Essentially similar things, right? But obviously slight variations, just like anything else that has to do with religion. It's all the same stuff. Now, what is a soul? What is a soul? And again, these are general kind of understandings. These are collections of, basically, if you took all of the major religions, you brought them into one, and you kind of parsed it out to get the most general idea of what a soul is. This is the best. This is the best I got. Soul in religion and in philosophy, because they're very much tied. The immaterial aspect or essence of a human being, that which confers individuality and humanity, often considered to be synonymous with the mind or the self. In theology specifically, the soul is further defined as the part of the individual which partakes of divinity, and often is considered to survive the death of body. Those religions, those groups of people that believe in this idea of reincarnation, believe that after the physical death, the soul continues on. However, the soul continues on through another physical life, and then you repeat the cycle. And again, most of the religions base it off of karma. They base it off of your actions. This is something that Judaism to a point, actually held to. They didn't call it karma until you get into, Kabbalah, but they functioned off of the same idea. There were laws, there were morals, there were set things in stone. You could do, you can't do. If you do them positively, there's a reward. If you do them negatively, there's a consequence, a negative consequence. It wasn't that much different. Early Christianity, the way, before it became called Christian, that was the very later on label that we got. The way functioned kind of similarly. They believed good deeds resulted in a positive outcome, and negative deeds resulted in consequence, in negative things happening. It's a very similar idea. If you really break it down, it's a very similar idea. It becomes more complex. It became a hell of a lot more complex, kind of as Christianity shifted into more of a label and less of a way of life, more of a religion and less of a spiritual journey. It became very different. It became very different. And that's when Christianity really started to hang on to the non-essentials more than the essentials. Whereas a lot of these Asian religions, they really hold dear to the spiritual. They really held dear to the essentials. What is essential? Being a good person, having good character, affecting other people positively. These are positive soul functions, right? Because they believe heavily in the concept of a soul. And more so because they believe your soul doesn't just, game over, you die, you're going to heaven, all good, you made it. Whereas it's like the polar opposite. They have to do good. Otherwise, they will suffer consequences, not even just in the afterlife, but they're going to suffer consequences in the next life. So they're going to go through a physical hell again and just keep going through this cycle until they reach, for Buddhism at least, nirvana. But the other Asian religions have a very similar concept, and several actually have the same concept of nirvana. Once you reach that final state, basically. Whereas in Christianity, it's become this by grace alone. It's become this, it doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter what your morals are, really. It doesn't matter. Nothing matters as long as you believe Jesus Christ was who he said he was. As long as you believe that, you're good. You're not, there's no second physical life that you could suffer consequences for. There's no consequences at all in the afterlife, really, as long as you believe in Jesus Christ. You can be the biggest piece of shit on the planet. You can be the biggest piece of crap on the planet. As long as you believe in Jesus and profess it with your mouth, you're good. You're all good. Very new Christian ideology. Very, very new. It might have been around for most of our lifetimes, but that's new. If you think about the full depth of Christianity, the full historical context of Christianity, that's a very small amount of time. That's a very new concept, and it's a garbage concept. But it came because in the late 1900s, they kind of went in the opposite direction. Everything was very much fire and brimstone. So you had this one side of the spectrum, and then you had the full other side of the spectrum. They just flipped and then flopped. Whereas in reality, in my opinion, we should be somewhere in the middle. I think your actions do matter. I think they do affect your soul. I think they do affect other people around you, and I think they can affect other people around you's soul. And I do believe those things are eternal. Right? There's my little rant there right off the bat. You guys have any thoughts about any of that so far before we ramble on? And if anybody's planning on coming on to speak, let me know. Let me know. I'm in the voice chat over there, so you can join, but your voice will not come through to the stream. So I got to know that you're there. So the 5 major religions, while you guys throw anything out, if you want to add to this at all. The 5 major religions that believe in reincarnation. We've already covered a few, but there's more. So you got Hinduism, you got Jainism, you got Buddhism, Sikhism, and Kabbalah Judaism. I'm going to put all of those in the chat so you guys can look at them. And are any of these ones that you guys want to go deeper into? Because I've got some resources here we can kind of file through together. If not, then we'll just go straight into the Pew Research study that I found. That was pretty interesting. Like I said, I didn't read all of it, so we're kind of going to go through some of it together. But what I did read was, it was real good. It was really good. Very interesting stuff. Ghost Gaze getting ready. Beautiful. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Shots fired. Mystic, who did I fire shots at? Christians? I feel like that goes without saying. Let's be real. Pretty much every time we do this, I fire some kind of shot at Christianity. I would say Kabbalah. Okay. That's kind of what I figured, because that's the closest thing for Christians to kind of relate to would be Kabbalah. Here's a funny little story. When I was young, like young, and I was still in Catholic school, I, for some reason, became kind of obsessed with becoming Jewish, even though I didn't believe in God, really. I have no idea why. I don't really remember, but I remember like I bought a bunch of books on Kabbalah Judaism, and I read them as like a young child. So I think this whole religious journey started for me very, very young, actually. And then I just ended up getting pissed off and writing it all off for a handful of years. But interesting story, funny story. My parents laughed at me. They thought I was done. Joe Wynn, 1973. God, I'm not that old, man. Come on. I'm not that old. Reincarnation, Kabbalah, Jewish mysticism. One of life's greatest challenges, we're not going to read all this, we're just going to get through some of it. One of life's greatest challenges is to understand why. Often when faced with crisis, trauma, or bereavement, we intuitively search for meaning and purpose. Cold realization that we may never fathom circumstances leaves us numb. One avenue in which Kabbalah refreshes our faith is in its presentation of reincarnation and soul migration. Although no overt reference is made in the scripture to the subject, as I said at the beginning of this, however, the greatest Kabbalist, notably the Arizal, as quoted in the work Shar Hagulim, don't know how to say it, sorry y'all, but it's called in English, it's Gate of Reincarnation, expound clearly its principles. The soul is eternal, a spark of the divine. Or as the prophet Job called it, a part of God above. The soul exists before it enters the body, and it leaves after the body is laid to rest. We'll read that again. The soul exists before it enters the body, and it leaves after the body is laid to rest. Though the soul's place of origin is in the higher worlds, there is something that the soul can achieve in a body that it cannot achieve in the heavenly realms. What does that mean just theologically? I'm reading this for the first time with you guys. I just gathered resources, so hopefully it's good. But it said there is something that the soul can achieve in a body that it cannot achieve in the heavenly realm. What does that mean theologically? That means within the heavenly realm there is some kind of limitations. It means once you move on, you don't have free reign over every realm. You don't have. It's not like you become invincible and you become fully movable, where you can just hop from plane to plane or realm to realm or world to world. This insinuates that there is some kind of limitation once you move on. There is something the soul can achieve in the body that it cannot achieve in the heavenly realm. That's the insinuation. There are limitations. It has already been explained that the purpose of creation is to make an abode for the divine in this world. Although higher worlds are glorious in terms of revelation and offer the best reward for a soul after it has achieved its earthly mission, the heavenly realms are not the purpose of creation. It was God's desire to create a world where his presence would be acutely concealed and darkness and evil would prevail. That's an interesting statement. I would say Christianity doesn't agree with that. It was God's desire to create the world where his presence would be acutely concealed and darkness and evil would prevail. Interesting statement. Interesting statement. He charged his children with the task of creating a home in this world, and the soul fulfills that mission by its adherence to the Torah. Again, Judaism, that's where we're at. Kabbalah explains that the soul is comprised of 613 channels which parallel the 248 limbs and 365 blood vessels of the body. These 613 channels attain eternal elevation when all 613 mitzvahs are fulfilled by a soul in its earthly descent. Usually, a soul does not manage to fulfill all the commandments in one descent. And the Arizal writes that every soul must be repeatedly reincarnated until it had fulfilled all 613 mitzvah in thought, speech, and in action. In the previous chapter, okay, so now they're referencing a text that we don't have. Let me see. Souls may also be reincarnated to complete a certain task, repay a debt, or rectify a sin. In fact, the concept of reincarnation as rectification for sin is well documented by the Kabbalists. That's interesting. Here, the soul is cleansed in order to be elevated to the Garden of Eden. Here we go. There's some good stuff. Here, the soul is elevated in order to be, I'm gonna restart. Here, the soul is cleansed in order to be elevated to the Garden of Eden. How is this concept reconciled with the possibility of reincarnation and a return to our world? The Kabbalists explain that when a soul returns to this world, the part of the soul that was elevated by its Torah, learning, what the heck? Hold on. The part of the soul that was elevated by its Torah, learning, and the mitzvah performance is not reincarnated. Rather, it is only the other parts. Let me get glasses, y'all. I'm already struggling, man. Maybe I was born in 73, Mikkel. You might be right. That's much better. Rather, it is only the other parts of the soul that were not affected by the first incarnation that return. The possibility of a soul being divided and a part of a soul being reincarnated is discussed at length in Kabbalah. The original idea stems from the fact that the soul of Adam was composed of all future souls. Now we're getting juicy, yo. Here we go. The original idea stems from the fact that the soul of Adam was composed of all future souls, and the soul of Jacob was comprised of 70 parts, which were then further subdivided into the 600,000 souls of Israel. Wild. These 600,000 were then subdivided further into another 600,000. Through various reincarnations, all parts of the soul are elevated, and once the entire soul has been elevated, the soul is no longer reincarnated. This explains the strange phenomena of why certain people engage in a specific mitzvah in which they excel. It could be that the person's soul descended again for the sake of that specific mitzvah. Interesting. Most fascinating is the study of soul migration, which is how a soul from a previous generation is reincarnated in a later generation into a specific set of circumstances which are tailored to engineer a rectification of a previous sin. Of the hundreds of examples, we shall quote one here, which is documented in the book Sharia, Gates of Repentance, written by Rabbi Dovber of Lubavitch, something along those lines. A foremost Kabbalist. When we take a look at the period in history of the expulsion of the Jews from Spain in 1492, we stand perplexed as to why that generation had the awesome task of deciding whether apostasy and burning at the stake. Why was it at this particular junction of Jewish history, Jews had to endure such horrible torture and exile at the hands of Inquisition? That's interesting, though. A soul from a previous generation is reincarnated into a later generation, tailored to engineer a rectification of a previous sin, a specific previous sin. That's very interesting. Take a drink every time soul is said tonight. Yeah. Everybody will drop off. Slowly drop off. All right, let me see. Let me catch up. Old map says red been here a couple minutes. What? Oh, you're driving. Gotcha. Pray for me. Heat melts Arizona drivers' brains. Super scary driving here, especially in rush hour traffic. God, yeah. We know all about it. Chicago is it's some of the worst driving I've ever seen in my life. This beautiful state of Illinois. The soul exists before and after. Yeah, I thought that was interesting as well. Are the limitations because we need a physical body to make decisions like sin and whatnot? What do you mean, Rodriguez? What do you mean? Ghost, I'm gonna go ahead and merge the audio. So if you're ready, feel free. If you're not and you need some time, you're good. But just so you know, once you unmute, you will be live. Wow, that's actually pretty similar to part of SRF. And that was the cult Danny was in some way involved in. So Danny, you're saying they kind of adhered to Asian ideas of reincarnation, the cult that you were a part of, or? Fascinating. Kabbalah claims souls are limited. I most get my hands on some. Yeah, you should read about it. Kabbalah is super interesting, man. It's interesting stuff.
I'm here, Joe.
Beautiful. Ready when you are.
Number one, I don't think the soul. What did you guys say? I'm trying to read.
Yeah, no, it's hard to.
I don't think the soul is eternal. I think the spirit is. I think the soul is created once it enters a body, and then it will be potentially eternal after that. But souls definitely have a beginning because the spirit requires a brain to kind of transform and shape into, to become a unique person. I don't think you are a unique person before you have a brain to develop in. I think the spirit is almost like a base material that gets refined in a brain. But, that's just kind of my understanding of it.
So let's do this first. Why don't you distinguish from your perception? What's the difference?
Okay, so the spirit would be the water and a brain would be the dam.
Go on.
Okay, so let's see how to put this. The spirit would be like, I should have just posted my definitions because I'm rusty. I haven't gone over them in a while.
We can come back to it if you want. Give you some time.
I think I might have just been I was reading like something that Mikkel said, and I think the nature of the spirit and soul, they're not interchangeable. I know a lot of people use them in an interchangeable way, but I think they're quite different but related. I think the soul is a cup that is filled with water, and the spirit is the water. The soul is the combination of the cup and water. Now imagine a cup being a very strange shape, almost like a tree with branches instead of just like a silo. That unique shape is the soul, and that shape is created by living, by experiencing things, and absorbing stimuli through the five senses. That's why trauma matters. If a child has trauma, it creates a divot or a bend, so to speak, in their soul that will kind of always be there. And then that gets into memory and touching on like this whole thing is about memory. Reincarnation, that's why I don't buy the Eastern model, because there's no memory involved, at least according to what I've seen regarding it. It would require that, yes, we are all Adam, and then Adam remembers, but we might not, because we're just like these little feelers that live in experience, and then it goes back to him and he remembers. Okay, I can see it working that way, but it wouldn't work if we are each individual agents that don't get to remember. So I'll stop talking, see what you think, see what everyone else thinks.
No, I'm definitely on board. I view it pretty much the same. Yeah, I think memory has to exist. I have a hard time kind of rectifying any of it if memories. I mean, I don't know, man. It wipes everything then.
Yeah, the Greeks have a concept in a concept called the River of Lethe, which is a river that wipes the memory upon arrival to Sheol or Hades, and it would almost seem to work in the opposite way. So if we are coming from this central, in the Kabbalah, they call it the chamber of Guff. If we're coming from this chamber as base material, as a base spirit, and then inhabiting a body, I can see how there would be some type of like priming or memory erasure before entering a body. But, well, I don't know. That would also require there be a central soul, like something that has agency. Yeah. It's tough, man. I don't know.
It's super tough. It's super tough. Is that so? The Lethe is one of the 5, right?
Yeah.
Of the underworld, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Or Lethe. I don't know how it's pronounced, but
yeah, I'm not sure. I've always called it Lethe, but yeah, I have no idea, man. I have no idea. But yeah, that would be something interesting to dive into at some point too. The 5 rivers of the underworld. It's been a long time since I've gone into any of that, but no, it's real tough. That's one of those things, man, that like when you really try to, I don't know, I feel like a broken record, but when you try to conceptualize that, it's very difficult to just make it make sense. Even in your head. It's hard.
Well, I mean, I think I've done it in the sense that I think the rivers are just channels of the magnetic field.
Yeah.
I think the magnetic field in our planet is literally, it's just like it explains every kind of weird phenomena, and reincarnation included. I think we're just part of this machine that's doing a thing, and we're trying to surmise the processes and figure out what is it doing and why is it doing it. But there has to be an objective thing that is happening, and we have to try to figure out what that thing is based on all the clues we have been left through mythologies and science and all that.
Yeah.
It's a tall order, but...
Yeah, no crap, huh? Mikhail said to you, soul as an ice cube, ? Frozen water?
Soul as an ice cube. I don't know exactly what he's getting at there.
Mikhail, give us more.
Okay. Oh, maybe he was referring to the water thing.
I think so, yeah. That's what it seems. Mikhail, if you want to throw more in there.
An ice cube would just be... I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go.
I was just saying an ice cube would just be a different state of a spirit.
Yeah.
But it needs to be filtering through something in order to be a soul. And, I mean, ice cubes can't really filter too well. I mean, I think it has to be liquid or... filtration is the key in all of it. So if it's not filtering, then it's kind of not doing anything. It's just there.
So sorry, I was just because. So do you seem to kind of attribute the soul and spirit things like that, or is it maybe just soul? Do they have to adhere to physical principles to begin with? I think from your perspective, you kind of believe that, right?
Yeah, because I think every physical principle has a spiritual analog. And I think God made it that way for a reason, so that we could understand spiritual things without being in the spiritual realm, so to speak. Because we can't be there, but we can kind of have a glimpse. Because we know so much, assumingly, we know so much about the physical laws, we can know about spiritual laws because they connect. That's the way I see it.
So then do you think about how I want to say it. Do you think then that the glimpse itself is a reflection of spiritual reality, or is it more of an illustrative thing that is more of a reference than photorealistic or realistic? The way that we experience, you get what I'm saying? Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think?
Well, I think that, okay, if I were, I think that there is an objective reality that we are just trying to get at. We may or may not ever reach full illumination of that reality.
Yeah.
But for example, if we were to go back in time and talk to someone and be like, yo, there's this electromagnetic field around our planet, they wouldn't know what to make of that, even though it's true. So like, that is an objective reality that needs to be explained to people in a way that they can grasp. And I think that's what mythologies were doing when they were talking about Hades and the rivers and the Bifrost above the throne of God. It's all these like symbols and weird sci-fi / fantasy sounding terms.
Yeah.
They're all just trying to get at an actual principle that, I mean, hey, the magnetic field is invisible. Like, we can't see it. We can't perceive it without special instruments. So I think one inherent quality of a spirit is its invisibility. Even water is clear. I mean, there are, or like I've used before, like an FBI undercover agent is also invisible, but there's different types of invisible. And that's why in my spirit definition, I just say influence, because any kind of influence can be seen as a spirit. I don't want to get into that now, but it's a rabbit hole.
I mean, God, everything.
And I've kind of covered it before, so whatever.
Okay, so you just said spiritual, or your spirit is invisible. Mm-hmm. Is it? So I guess I'm kind of asked the same question again. And so if you're going to give the same answer, you don't have to answer it. But is the spirit invisible, or is the spirit something else entirely? Outside of conception. Because invisibility we can conceive. The thing is there, we just can't see it. But it exists. Yeah. It's within our reality. Is the spirit within our reality? And in the way that we perceive reality as humans?
So I think there are only 3 categories in the universe: spirit, soul, body. Those are the only 3 categories. I think every category of spirit is invisible except for symbols. Those are the only category of spirit that is visible.
Sure.
However, they also have an invisible quality, because if I were to show you like a Cyrillic Russian character, you might not even know what to call that or what it is. Same goes for Arabic symbols or letters or whatever. That the meaning would be invisible to you, but you would still see the carving or whatever it is.
Sure.
So it has to have some kind of invisible quality. And I think our particular spirit that literally inhabits us is electricity.
Yeah.
We can't see that except under certain special conditions. But I don't think that it is. I think it's the component that it's the highway that spirits travel on, electromagnetism. I don't think it is the spirit itself. I think it's what facilitates the spirit to do its thing. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I agree. I totally agree.
And I also I'm not in the group that thinks that there are some things that, I don't know. I don't want this to sound arrogant, but like, I think that God is not a God that enjoys confusing people. So I don't think that he's going to leave us clues to something that can't be solved. I think it can be solved, maybe not even in our current time period, but I think the possibility of it being solved is there. Because that would just seem kind of cruel and trolly to do that.
But no, finish. Sorry.
I was just going to say, and I don't worship Loki. So going back to Norse.
Yeah. So I agree. But at the same time, then I have a rabbit hole-y question with that I kind of go through is...
Yeah, man, push back. It's all good.
So isn't that thought, because again, I agree, but isn't that thought kind of simple and kind of selfish, and not personally selfish like you, but personally selfish like humans? What if we could catch on to things whether God intended us to or not, that weren't meant for us. So then they would be confusing. Whether it was an intent, he intentionally made it so that we were capable of getting a taste of them, just enough to be curious and to not understand, but not as humans having the capacity to fully understand, versus keeping them completely separate. So I guess an example, could be, what if there are other kinds of spiritual beings on the earth that in some way differ from humans? And I'm not saying I believe it, but what if? And certain things were meant for those beings, but we as humans, with the souls that we have, the spirit that we are, we can perceive enough of it, or we can see enough of it to notice it, but not enough of it to understand it, because it's outside of our conception as the beings that we are. But the other beings can fully understand it, and that could go both ways. God could give us things that we fully understand, and the other beings, should they be there at all or exist, they don't fully understand, but they see or understand enough of it to be curious and to be confused. Do you think that's a possibility?
Yeah, I think that's possible, because I think, school has grades, and you could be a little second grader and peek your head into a senior classroom and see a weird equation on the board and be like, whoa, what's that? And, you could have one of those seniors come out and be like, hey, this is what it means. And your little brain's not going to comprehend it. But I think maybe something similar happened in the garden. But that's a whole different thing, No,
it's interesting you brought that up. Yeah. I think it's a potential possibility. So then theologically, is that an oversight on God's part? Is that a failure on God's part? Or do you think there's possibly something that, as you said, maybe not in our timeline, is meant to be mended, but eventually the two realities will eventually come together for some reason?
Yeah, I think God is a synthesizer, and he's trying to get us to kind of meet somewhere in the middle, or arrive at a conclusion that he's just dropping hints at all throughout time and space. I think if knowledge is forbidden, it's forbidden to protect us, and or it is only forbidden to be shared to beings of a certain level, like going back to school. We're not going to explain everything to a child.
Yeah.
So now, if one of those children happen to be freaking brilliant and kind of comes to a conclusion on his own, independent of his teacher telling him, then what do we do with those kids? We place them in higher grades. I mean, that's what happens. And I think it's pretty similar in the grand scheme of things. If some human gets a wild idea that happens to be right 100 years and confirmed 100 or 200 years in the future, that guy goes down as a savant or whatever of his time.
Yeah.
Nobody told him. He just kind of was walking along one day, and then it just bam, he got it. And he might not have even known he got it, and his friends might not have known. They might have thought he was crazy, but it's confirmed later on that, wow, he had it, or something close,
So with an example like that, do you think that kid was predestined, or do you think this is more a matter of chance, a matter of circumstance, that child ends up there? I mean, we have child prodigies, right? Like kids that are 5 years old and can play Beethoven. Wild things like that exist. But are these types of things where maybe within our spiritual context, a kid like you were just talking about, is that an example of some kind of predestined act by God to give that child that ability? Or do you think that's a matter of circumstance, experience?
Well, I mean, it goes back to what we were talking about last week. It could be God's Benford law. It could be some type of percentage that is just going to be like that for whatever reason. It just works itself out. To us, it seems maybe chaotic and random, but if you zoom out, it might completely make sense and be ordered. Because I think a lot of order and chaos depends on your perspective and where you are, where the point of view is coming from. If you zoom out, you might be able to see, it's kind of like a mosaic.
Yeah. Yep.
You know, if you zoom out, it's different than if you zoom in.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the forest and the trees deal. Yeah.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. All right. Let me see. Man, Rodriguez, you were talking about limitations in the other realm. That's what I'm talking about. All right. Let me go back to your original one. Are the limitations because we need a physical body to make decisions like sin and whatnot? So she asked that in response to, what was it, man? What was I talking about? How, oh shoot, what was it? Oh, once you move on from the realm, I can't remember what religion that was we were reading about, but once you move on from this realm, there's limitations on your ability to, you know, call it revisiting. Where do you land on stuff like that? So once, you know, I guess take reincarnation out of it and then we'll bring it in, but take reincarnation out, you know, classic Christian beliefs. Once you die, you go to heaven, whatever the hell that means. But you go there, you know, whether you believe you become, you know, quote unquote an angel, or I know you don't believe that, but you become something else, or you just shed this body. Regardless, do you then become limited to this world, or limited to certain realities, certain planes, or certain realms, and then you're stuck in this next realm? I think no, right? I think you have more of kind of an open view, don't you?
So she's basically saying, like, when we die and we go to whatever, Hades or whatever. Yeah. I don't even know what do the Eastern people believe about. Do you go to a waiting room where you're in a queue to come back, or like, I don't know.
So it depends. It was interesting, man. We did one of these on hell, and so we went through a bunch of different religions' ideas on hell, and they differ a good amount in detail. But a lot of them do believe there's some kind of quote unquote hell where you have some degree of eternal, in some cases, suffering and more limited suffering in others. So it kind of depends. But yeah, basically,
I mean,
once you leave, can you come back?
Yes, I think we do come back. I think, well, okay, so I guess my belief is when we die, we go to this central storage. And then while we're there, yeah, we're going to be limited to what we can experience because we don't have brains at that point, unless that central storage is Adam. And, you know, that's a big if.
Yeah. Well,
I don't necessarily believe that.
Expand on that, because I think I'd guess probably a lot of people aren't going to know kind of what you mean by that.
So, assuming that we are all individuals and there is no central mind, yeah, we would be limited because we would be essentially going back to some kind of digital existence versus this analog existence that we have now. I don't even know what that would look like. I mean, it could be similar to the Matrix, but if that's the case, then we could be in that now, and this could be the thing, and there's a higher. So, like I said one week when we were talking, if atoms are just energy, how can you differentiate energy and physical matter? It's all the same thing.
Yeah.
So it can get confusing. You almost have to map it out on paper and just kind of play around with the idea. Yeah. But yes, it would seem that when we die, we have limitations at that point because we don't have a body. And our soul, which is our unique spiritual print that we developed through our life, that information goes to some kind of storage, and then it can be re-uploaded into a new body that's compatible, just like we do with our phones and stuff. It seems to be able to work the same way, because why wouldn't it? I mean, well, I'm just taking it for a given, but
yeah, sure. So
it seems to be.
Why?
Go ahead.
Why do you need a brain in order to travel back?
Because the brain seems to be a feature. Like I said, I think the universe is God's brain, and I think every star and planet sort of act as a brain, at least planets, because they filter electromagnetism.
Yeah.
And and just like our brain does. So I'm thinking like, okay, and so does our heart. Um, so it has to work in a similar way, but like I don't know the details of that way.
Do you think that's one of those things that we're not meant to know, or do you think that's one of these things like you were kind of saying where God wouldn't set it up like that? He doesn't want to be a God of confusion. So the answers are there. We just haven't found them.
Well, I'll take the unpopular approach and say we are meant to know everything. It's a question of when and how. Because I mean, you can just go back and extrapolate. Do we know more now than we did 100 years ago? Yes. What about 100 years before that? Yes. It's always going to be yes.
Yeah.
The further you go back.
Yeah.
Therefore, it would always be yes the further we go forward, until we attain some kind of divine knowledge where we just get it all. At some point in the distant future, however that works, I don't know.
So here's another question then. Do you know anything about or do you believe, if you do know about it, about ancient technology and how, you know, there are many who believe, and I'm kind of one of them, that something happened and we either regressed or we lost technology that existed prior to the modern age. So I mean, the pyramids are like an obvious kind of example. That's, people argue that it's got something to do with magnetism or energy or, you know, whatever. But regardless, we have these examples now. Randall Carlson is someone who obviously talks about it a lot. Kat's super into this stuff. But there are, in my opinion, things that are decent proof of technology during time periods where that shit didn't exist, or that we were told did not exist. These things are kind of coming out. Do you know anything about that? Do you believe it? Do you think it's all BS?
Yeah, I know about it. I do believe that prior to the flood, there was, you know, stuff like that.
Yeah.
I mean, what do we know about technology? It seems to get smaller as we develop it. So if you go backwards, I see things like pyramids and the way cities were laid out as giant motherboards. So they're using those principles like a motherboard principle, but just in a city instead of in the palm of our hand, because things get smaller over time.
Yeah.
No, that's like a kooky kind of idea, but I think there's something to it because, yeah, I think the pyramids were made for some type of energy manipulation based on where they're placed on the planet, etc.
So then does that alter or mess with your kind of timeline theory, where, you know, we're learning things as we go, and it's not going to be within our time period, maybe very far out, hundreds, thousands, millions of years later, we will have the answers to the divine, to the spiritual. Does the fact that, decent proof that they had technology that then after that they lost for X amount of time, do you think that's just a casualty of humans being infallible? Do you think that's something kind of brought upon by God? Was there a reason, or just kind of sad coincidence?
I would tend to think that if you catch your child with a lighter and he's trying to light things on fire, you take it away. And I think that maybe they were doing some things they shouldn't have been doing.
Yeah.
So that's why there had to be like a reset. That's my idea. That's kind of what I think. And it seems to align with scripture and the Book of Enoch, etc.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Yeah, that's kind of what I believe. Yeah.
So yeah, I think about it sometimes, man. It seems like, you know, historically, there's been a reset for kind of one of two reasons. Either humans became, I don't know what you want to call it, too intelligent or too advanced, or, you know, whatever. They do real cool shit and get somewhere that maybe they're not ready to be, or shouldn't be, or whatever the case might be. Or on the flip side, humans become so goddamn stupid and messy and violent and whatever that there's a reset because of that. Do you think, I guess, do you kind of see it that way, or do you see it more complex than that?
Yeah, I see our spiritual development, or our I should say our technological development outpaced our spiritual development, and unless they're kind of co-equal, you're gonna have problems.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what it was. I think we had, I mean, look at right now. It's basically the same thing.
Yeah. Yep.
So we're getting to that point where, like, hey, we're going to create AI and it's going to completely enslave the world if we're not careful.
Yeah.
So it's something like that, I think.
No, I agree.
I think Rodriguez might want to chip in or pitch in on that.
I saw her pop in there. Rodriguez, you had some background noise. That's why I muted you. You're unmuted on my end though.
Okay, can you guys hear me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I guess the question that I had when it comes to like reincarnation, sorry, this is probably like maybe 15 minutes ago or so, is more like, I guess I'm more curious as what part makes us who we are. And I know I had kind of threw it out in the chat earlier, like when it comes to is it your brain? Is it your heart? Like, which part is it that determines where you actually go? Because I know we've all heard stories about people who give donations of certain organs and then they may adopt like certain characteristics from the donor and different things like that. And I know I kind of wrestled with this part personally when I had like, I've shared before, I've had like tons of surgeries and they've yanked out organs. And I remember there's one particular organ that I had issues like letting go of. And it made me feel like, dude, what's going to be left? What part of me is me? What part of me isn't me? What part is significant enough? Like, should I have a funeral for this organ? Like, I don't know. I'm just kind of curious how that works as we advance in, scientific technology and whatnot. Like, how does that work with reincarnation?
Yeah, Ghost, what do you think?
I think we are holographic and fractal in nature, so I don't know if y'all know how holograms work, but every bit of information of the hologram exists in every location of the hologram.
Yeah.
So if you, say, get a heart transplant or whatever, there's going to be some type of residual from that other guy because everything gets stored in our DNA and you are mixing DNA at that point, even if it's compatible. So yeah, I think, modern science is awesome and things like that can work to a degree, but yeah, I think you're touching on that. What was your question?
I don't know that it alters your DNA. But
well,
I guess
I'm saying the heart was from someone else, which has different DNA, but I don't think it alters your, yeah.
No, because it's the same species. So I don't know that that's really an issue, actually. But then we dabble into other parts where I think they're donating or doing transplants from, I think, pigs.
Yeah. I mean, they have been, though, right? For a while.
Yeah, and I mean, I hate to break a lot of women's hearts who've given birth, but I do know a lot of, when it comes to giving birth, if you've ever been induced, you're given Pitocin, and that's not synthetic. So I believe it comes from a pig also.
Oh, does it? I didn't know that.
Yeah, I hate to break any vegans' hearts out there. But
interesting. I did not know that. Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so
going back to what makes us us. I think it's our particular shape, and by shape I mean our branch network structure. The events that happen to us kind of shape that structure, and every tree is going to be slightly different. Some trees are going to be similar, obviously. The people have similar personalities, but I think it's the root network inside of our brain that makes us who we are. And the spirit is what pushes those roots out. It's the growth mechanism. It's like the water that carves out the riverbed, so to speak. So that's how I think we become our individual, unique person.
So you don't think basically, off of what you're saying, transplants and whatnot are kind of irrelevant, right?
Yeah, I think they are. I don't think they change who we are
It
fundamentally.
doesn't matter if it's a heart or anything like that.
But why? So I
Well-
guess I would ask, why does the heart thing trip you up? What's a heart? Like, why does that matter?
No, I'm just giving, because that's what's mentioned in the Bible, right? You hear about your heart, your soul, your spirit, and that one I know is an actual organ that can be transplanted. So
Yeah.
that's, I will say, like I did have a hysterectomy, and it was really, really hard for me. And I know to anyone else that may seem like irrelevant, but one of my friends said, you know, your uterus, it's like, what did she say? It was heaven's portal to earth.
Mm.
And I remember it really messed with me. And even my kids, when I said, hey, I think we may have to do this, my daughter kind of like genuinely got sad. And I know it sounds ridiculous, but she was like, that's my first home.
Oh.
Wow.
I guess so.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah. No, we got all that. I guess question. What?
So
No, go ahead. If you're not done, go ahead. Finish.
no, yeah, but I mean, I know that it had to have meant something. And then I remember I kind of looked up some stuff just with like my cultural history and ancestry. And I know they said that like if you did lose an organ, like if a soldier lost something in war, they actually did have almost like a funeral or burial service for it, because it was a part of you that was dying.
So then what that means, I guess, to me, is that you're kind of saying that our physical bodies matter. Like beyond.
I'm just trying to figure out
No pun intended.
where are we? I'm just trying to figure out like where are we?
What do you mean?
Like, I want to know the core of us, the core of our being. I don't know, Siamese twins or whatever you want to call it. Is there two of them? Is there one of them? What parts of them make it one person? Is it like, I don't know. I guess I'm just kind of.
I have an answer, I think. I'll say it again. It's the shape of our brain, but our. I just lost my train of thought.
Yeah, but if someone has a lobotomy.
You're right. So I think that our self, our particular shape is being backed up every nanosecond. So if we die in 5
Like
minutes,
on an iCloud type thing.
yes, and I think the
Yeah.
iCloud is in the planet's core. It's the electromagnetic field that surrounds us. It protects us from the sun, but it also has so many other features and purposes. And
Okay.
one of them is the backing up, because there would have to be some kind of backup method in case we die. So the current us is the thing that is saved, not the us when we were 5 years old or whatever. Like, it has to be continually ongoing all the time, being backed up. And it does that because we're swimming in this field without even realizing it. Like, we're just in it. Like I've used this metaphor before, where we're like a plasma ball. And if you look at I'm going to go off on a tiny little tangent, but it connects. If you look at a plasma ball, you'll see that there's a coil at the bottom that goes up to the middle, and then there's the sphere in the middle that is radiating these electrical filaments.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all know what that is, right? What it looks like? The coil, the plasma ball coil.
You want a plasma ball?
Yeah.
I'll get one up. Here.
Shoot, I need to look at the.
All right, here.
Where's my control?
Yeah, you guys can see. This is, some of them are cartoony, but this is essentially the idea.
Yeah. Let me pull you up. I can't see the stream right now. Yeah. Yep, that's it. So you see how there's a coil that comes up from the bottom? In Norse mythology, there are snakes that wrap around the the bottom of the tree of life. And I think that is what's being conveyed. If you know what happens when you touch a plasma ball, the arc goes to your finger.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
There's 8 billion arcs on the planet right now, and everyone has one of those filaments attached to them. When they die, it disappears. It goes back into the planet. Whenever a new baby is born, it attaches, so to speak, and it stays there throughout your life. I don't know where I was going with that. Something to do with the organs. I don't think you lose yourself if you have to give up an organ or whatever. Because I think yourself is being backed up constantly in the central database, so to speak.
Yeah.
So if someone's brain dead and everything else is still working, where are they?
I think that person is in Sheol, wherever
Agreed.
this hard drive is.
Agreed. Yeah, I'm on that same.
So when they come back, so if someone miraculously comes back, they just
Okay.
switch on?
When you go to your friend's house and they have Wi-Fi, do you have to connect automatic, or do you have to connect manually, or is it automatic? It's automatic. It's kind of like that part of you can reconnect to your particular brain if indeed you're permitted back, or I don't know how it works, but it would seem to
I
be
don't either.
The Wi-Fi is a good example.
So many questions.
Yeah, Wi-Fi is perfect.
The
It's
Wi-Fi
perfect
is
example for how it works.
Is a really good example. Yeah. But yeah, you essentially just you auto connect as soon as you.
We could all be completely wrong.
Yeah, of course.
I think we auto connect every time we wake up from a nap or a sleep.
Yeah. I've never thought about it like the Wi-Fi thing, but that's a phenomenal way to try to explain it. Yeah. I think you reconnect in a similar manner. Yeah. That's a great way to put it.
Or near-death experiences or whatever. And I think the same mechanism is used when Jesus puts us in a new body. It's a compatibility thing. He's going to give us new bodies that have X amount of upgrades, but it's still us, Just like you can transfer the data from an old phone to a new phone.
New body. Explain that more for everybody.
It's upgrade. It's like something that I think it has something to do with the water of life that makes us immortal. I don't think we can have that in this body, but I think our new body can interface with whatever that is, and but we can still retain our personhood because he's saving us in Sheol.
But are you talking about afterlife new body, or are you talking about reincarnation, physical world, our reality currently new body?
Yeah, that's a different
physical world. I think most
clarification.
Christians who believe in the spirity, wispy heaven is just this vague blah blah. I don't think that exists. I think we're always going to have bodies.
Sure, but different reality or same reality? Different physical. You come back to Earth, and you might be, say you die today. Are you potentially coming back when I'm 80 as someone that I could possibly meet, or are you saying it's very different plane of reality, different existence?
I see what you're saying. No, I don't think I'm coming back when you're 80. I think we're all going to come back at the same exact time. Well, there's two resurrections, but assuming that everyone here are all elect saints, whatever you want to call us, holy ones, Kodashim.
Yeah.
There's a million names. Yeah. Assuming we're all that, we're going to come back at the first resurrection. Everyone else is still asleep until 1,000 years are up.
Okay. I just wanted clarification so nobody took that in a different direction. Go ahead, Rodriguez.
Yeah, sorry. I do know, I remember how I shared with you guys during one surgery. I did see my dad, and he had passed away years ago when I was a kid. And I want to say when he passed away, he was 36. I think he was 36. And I'm in my 40s. So yeah, I know, right? When I saw him, he was 36. It wasn't like he was in his 40s or, I'm sorry, no. It would have been 70s. or anything like that. So that is something that I noticed.
How'd you see him?
Oh, it was
I mean,
weird.
if you want to answer.
No, yeah, it was weird. And it kind of dabbles into like so many things, but like my surgery was at the end of January. And for some reason, I had a weird vibe, I guess you could say, during this surgery, like prior to. So November, a couple months before the surgery, I actually made some adjustments to like my life insurance policy because of it. And I like I said, I don't know how to explain it, but I just did not have a good feeling. And I kind of gave like this thorough breakdown to two of the beneficiaries of like how things would go out. You know what I'm saying? If something were to happen, which is not something I've done before. And I've had 17 surgeries, I think. So that I think is something that's weird. And then when I had surgery, normally, I don't know if who on here has had surgery, but it's almost like a very long blink, you know?
Yeah.
But for some reason during this one, I had a very real concept of time. Like I remember knowing things were taking longer than it should have. And I remember just all of a sudden, like everything was white. And I tried, there was nothing like super cool, guys. I'm sorry. There was no bright light. There was no ball of fire, nothing like that. But I sat up and I saw my dad. And my dad was reaching for me and I started reaching for him. And I would have this feeling like, you know, fuck this shit. You know, screw this place. You know, I'm out of here. You know, I got my life insurance in place and whatever. I don't want to be here anymore. And it was weird. There was like these silhouette, maybe figurines like on the left. And they were just there. But my dad, I saw just like clear, like night and day, you know? And it was almost like I knew, I don't know how to explain it. I knew what he was like thinking or saying, but there was no talking. I don't know how to explain it because I know that sounds weird.
No, yeah.
And I'm not someone who like normally believes in this stuff, but like I was always raised in a really strict religious home where anything that's, you know, you question is just demonic. Like that's it. It's demonic. But like after that experience, I was like, nope, that's my dad. Like I know my dad. And I know that was him. So, and then ever since all of that, I've kind of started going on like this rabbit trail with my dad and his side of the family because I haven't talked to them in like 20 years. And all of a sudden, certain things are coming to light. So there's fruit in that experience, I think. So, yeah, I just kind of, I don't know how I got off on that tangent. But basically, it's really questioned a lot of what I think, what I believe, what I've been taught.
Yeah.
You know, an experience is an experience. And if my theology or whatever is not lining up with that, then I got to look at what's there, you know?
Yep. I mean,
I don't think it's demonic in any way.
No, I don't think so. I think it could
I think
be,
it's just a phenomenon. I think it could
Well,
be,
even if
right.
you guys did think that, I would have been okay with it because I know what, yeah.
Huh.
No, people, I think so many Christians tend to just, if we can't explain it, it's demonic. Ooh, just stay away.
Yeah.
But I think we can, like you know what I just said earlier, I think eventually we're going to be able to explain everything because I think that's what God wants. He wants us to know things. But it's just a matter of doling it out in the proper way.
Yeah.
And at the proper time.
Yeah, I think the timing is everything.
Yeah. You know, some people aren't ready. Some people still aren't ready to accept that the world is a sphere. So, like, there's proper time, man.
Yeah, totally true.
One thing I will say was really nice is there was no physical feeling because, like, I live in a lot of pain all the time, and I remember kind of being happy that there was like no pain. But there's no pain, there's no hunger, there's no sensation like you have to go to the like none of that.
So so you lacked those experiences. What What experiences did you have other than obviously what you already explained?
You know, as crazy as it sounds, is I remember thinking like, oh shit, I'm probably really depressed and I'm going to have to talk about this with my therapist because I wanted to ditch this place. Like, I literally had that thought, as crazy as it sounds.
That's funny.
And then I'm on some medications that can cause like brain fog, and I had like no brain fog whatsoever. I was like super sharp.
Were you aware of your body?
Yes. Yes, I knew what was going on. I was like, uh-oh. And actually,
so
I remember
because
was
like in your skull.
Wait, what?
Your point of view was in your skull. Like you were looking through eyes. You weren't just like total awareness 360 degrees around you.
No, I don't know that I would say that. But I do remember like my aunt usually comes and stays with me whenever I have surgery, and she stays with me for a couple weeks. And I actually had the thought of like, oh shit, if something happens, I'm going to feel bad for my aunt because she lost her husband like years ago. And I don't know how she could cope with, yeah, she's supposed to pick me up. But like, I had those thoughts.
Interesting.
I really had those thoughts.
Interesting.
But I was trying to get it and it was not letting me. I could only sit up halfway, like from the waist up. From the waist down, I could not. But I was trying.
Huh. And when you saw him, it was literally like just a person was there. It wasn't like see-through or anything.
No, it was a person.
What about background? Was it exactly where you were? Okay.
It was white, but I feel like I knew that I was in the hospital still.
Yeah.
I think I was still wearing my hospital gown.
Interesting. Go. So that it brings me into a question. What do you think about things like lucid dreaming?
Yeah. I think every atom is a potential point of view. Yeah. Where your consciousness can attach itself to a particular coordinate. That's why, and sometimes near-death experiences, they see themselves hovering, or they see their body and they're hovering over it, or they're kind of like going down the hall, 9 feet in the air, looking kind of down at people. So I think every atom is a potential attachment point for this stuff. But okay, ramble. You asked a question. What did you ask? I'm sorry.
No. That's still added to lucid dreaming.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, right. That's what I think it is.
Yeah.
I think we are, by default, we're attached to our, I guess, pineal gland. That's the anchor.
Yeah.
And just on a side tangent, when Rodriguez said something about the womb being the portal. That's true, but the pineal gland is the actual portal to heaven, from heaven to earth. The womb is just a mechanism to create more pineal glands.
Yeah.
That's essentially what it is. But yeah, that's what lucid dreaming is. I think we're unanchoring or de-anchoring from the moor, so to speak, and then we're going out to sea, and then we can and I think that's silver cord related. Getting into all the weird terms, etc.
Yeah, no, I agree. I asked because I recently experienced that. I think I've experienced that twice in my life, and one was I think it was last week. But it's just an.
All right, well we can't end the stream now until you tell that story.
This one's not a good one. I've told. Or actually, the first time it happened was horrific. It was absolutely awful. The one that just happened was just weird. It was just weird. So I was telling Kat about it. Like I said, I think it was last week or maybe over the weekend or maybe even earlier this week. But we had like the TV on in bed, and Kat had fallen asleep. I've been having some insomnia again recently, so I'm laying there. I've got like the TV on, just trying to zone out and go to sleep. And I thought I fell asleep, and then like within the dream, I was still watching TV. I was still laying in bed. Kat was like still laying on my chest. I could feel her like breathing and stuff. And then all of a sudden I like snapped awake. Like my eyes flew open, and I get night terrors and stuff. So it's not abnormal, but I snap awake, and then I try to like get up and go take a piss and, you know, come back to bed and go back to sleep. But I realized I wasn't awake while laying in bed, seeing through my normal perspective, like everything seems very normal, but I realized I'm asleep. Like this is all a dream, but my bedroom looks identical. The TV's playing the show that we had on, like at the point that it was on. And then my eyes snap awake again. And then that time I really realized, like, okay, this time I'm awake and I could get up. The time before I couldn't get up. So it was like a dream within a dream within a dream. And the first two times I thought I was waking up were just like totally bizarre. Totally bizarre. The second time, especially because I'm like, shit, I just did this. Am I trapped? Am I trapped somewhere? Like I can't fucking wake up. And then finally I did.
Yeah.
And then it was all, you know, it all came back and I'm like, okay, I know I'm awake for sure, 100%. But it's just weird because like, I just don't experience shit like that, dude. And a couple months ago, I think it was before you came around, I had a real weird experience at night that I can tell at some point again, but horrifying. So literally the scariest thing I've ever experienced in my life, and anybody who knows me knows I had a very colored past, so I've been afraid before, for sure. The most horrifying thing I've ever experienced. This was several months ago. And then the lucid dream, that wasn't really a lucid dream. That was like an experience that was bizarre. But like 3 years ago, right after my mom died, I had another like lucid dream where we were living somewhere else, but I fell asleep. I woke up, or I thought I woke up, and I see like this just like the dark cloud, you know, like kind of a stereotypical how we see like an evil spirit. It's just kind of this cloaky, dark, floating, fucking translucent thing, like hovering over our bed. And I realized I'm asleep, and I tried to wake myself up, and then I'm like trying to yell at Kat, like, wake me up, fucking wake me up, but nothing's coming out. And I know that nothing's coming out, and I know that I'm asleep, but I can't do anything about it. I also can't move. I'm like paralyzed. So I learned what sleep paralysis was at that point. I had no idea what it was before. And then I eventually woke up. I was like drenched in sweat, and I was screaming, and I woke Kat up, like just fucking horrified. So 3 times in my life, all within the past 3 years, but just wild stuff. Never have I ever experienced, you know, I laughed at everybody anytime somebody told me that shit. I always thought it was just absolute garbage. People are either delusional or seeking attention or whatever. It's just like, it was just weird, very weird. But I have a whole new respect and a whole new perspective for hearing things like that. And it took kind of experiencing it to get off my high horse, so to say, and be like, okay, well, benefit of the doubt. I've been there, so I'm going to listen to you and not just write you off as crazy. But wild shit, man. And it really makes me think about like just reality. Where is reality? Like, where's the freaking line? And what really differentiates the two? Scary.
Yeah, right on. I had 2, when I was 17, I had 2 sleep paralysis incidents within several months of each other.
Really?
And, I completely understand what you just said and what you went through, because it was very similar.
Yeah.
And, you know, that's kind of when I started to kind of try to, you know, what is this? It had to happen some way. So what is it?
Yeah.
And it led me, you know, I still haven't figured it out completely, but it would seem that the brain has different layers, and if you're operating in a layer where you shouldn't be because you should be asleep or whatever, it just seems like unless we're in the operation layer, we might still be able to perceive things, but we can't walk around because our body's turned off. And the very fact that our body's turned off, yet we can still perceive, might be the fear. I don't know.
Yeah.
But it's so different than our everyday experience. The fact that we're aware but can't move might have something to do with it, but I don't think it's everything. I don't think that's the full explanation of it, but I think it's probably, you know, I'm getting there somewhere, but
yeah, no, I agree. I guess how much of that too do you think other entities have to do with? Like the obvious draw that people make is like, oh, it's a demon when you have the sleep paralysis. I think there's even like some specific terms, or I don't know, I'm not up to speed on all that stuff, but people not obviously, but a lot of people that I've talked to will immediately attribute it to, you know, that's a demonic entity trying to do something with you. I sit on kind of the line. I think maybe sometimes, but
yeah,
I don't think that's always it. I think sometimes, kind of like you're saying, our existence, at least within our brain, like there are layers to it. I don't know, man. It gets very odd, but I don't want to attribute it all to, you know, it's a freaking demon. Not everything is a freaking demon. I think sometimes dark entities have to do with our experiences, but I think a lot of the time it's just kind of the easy out. Like, oh, blame the demons and move on. I don't think that's always it.
Yeah, I think fear is a base ingredient in all of this.
Yeah.
And if you don't understand something, you have a natural fear of it just as a human being, I guess. So that fear of not knowing, you could say that's a demon, but because like I said, a demon is an evil spirit, and a spirit is an idea or a feeling or whatever.
Yeah.
So in that regard, it could be a demon. But like, is a guy just like sitting somewhere? Is Mr. Demon sitting somewhere pulling levers to try to scare you? I don't think so.
No.
Yeah, I tend to not think that.
No. Yeah, I have a harder time with that. That's a big old rabbit hole in and of itself. I'm gonna add sleep paralysis to our list here, and then what is reality, which is gonna, honestly, I should try to refine that because that's way too freaking broad. But some of the stuff we brought up tonight is we should try to get in deeper on different nights.
Yeah.
Anything else that you have? Otherwise, guys, I gotta start wrapping up. I need to go put the kiddo to bed. But anything else you got?
I mean, just to summarize, I think that we are reincarnated once every 6,000 to 7,000 years, and not once per life. That's just my take, and we could talk about this way longer, because it's one of those things that you might even not be able to get into the juicy details unless we talk for 3 hours. I mean, you know.
Yeah. No, I'm definitely
it happens that way.
Oh, for sure. I am gonna add a part 2 to this one, definitely, and we'll try to refine it on some specific kind of angles. But yeah, this is one of, I mean, man, it's like a lot of the shit that we talk about is, which it's more of a matter of which goddamn rabbit hole do you want to go down, not really the topic itself. They're way too broad.
Yeah. Or tree branch, because I think rabbit holes are like that. You can just go off in any direction, and I'm mad that I didn't read the chat more. I think Dumbcat was asking questions that I glanced at, but I didn't see them all.
Let's hit those real quick. I think he only asked 2, so we can catch up on those. Oh, but actually, I told Mystic she had a question up here. I told her we do. Hold on. All right, here it is. She said, what if this hard drive or Sheol can get a virus? Or is it untouchable by spirits not of God or goodness?
I think the pineal glands can get a virus, but I don't think Sheol can get a virus because it has a firewall that we hear about in Genesis 3:24. The cherubim who swings a fiery sword in every direction.
Yeah, I think you brought that up last week, huh?
Yeah, one of the weeks.
Yeah.
I was talking about that.
Okay,
kind of central to one of my theories. So, yeah, that's there. I don't think there's anything getting in. I think things can get out in a measured way, but
yeah, not.
I think things can get into our mind. Where our mind is a miniature version of that.
Yeah, a much more vulnerable version.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
And I think it has to be for now.
Yeah, Yeah, no, I definitely agree. All right, Dumb Cat here. He's got the question I ponder is if we pre-existed in heaven. The question I ponder is if we pre-existed in heaven. Does not seem fair that I was born a sinful being. Makes more sense if I was sent here because I did not fight during the war in heaven.
I think the war in heaven is ongoing. I don't think it was at a time in the past and then stopped. I think it's a constant thing.
Yeah, 100%. I'm in that same camp. I don't think that's even close to being done, honestly. And then he said, I lost my fear of spirits after I realized I am also a spirit.
Yeah. You are a spirit inhabiting a suit, a shell.
Yep.
And yeah. But one thing he said, I don't think we existed in heaven. I think our base material existed in heaven, which is the spirit of God. I guess.
Yep.
We only existed when we inhabited a brain to grow in. That's my view. Now, God, being the Alpha and Omega, can know about us by looking forward in time, therefore knowing us before we were born. But I don't think the quote unquote us, our individual personality existed, quote unquote, in heaven before we were born. But maybe that's an unpopular take. I don't know.
No. I mean, it might be unpopular, but I don't disagree at all. Actually.
Yeah, I think we were prima materia when we were in heaven.
Yeah.
So.
Yes. No, absolutely.
Hopefully that helps, Dumb Cat.
All right, let's see. I'll make sure I'm not leaving anybody out. I think we covered most of it, man. Mystic also said, I like the cloud idea because we are bringing this body to the next life. Wait, what? I like the cloud idea because are we bringing this next body to the next life? No. So how can the piece of us that we are bringing into the next life, soul or spirit, be ruined by a damaged body? I think this was a reference to Rodriguez.
Mm-hmm.
And then she said, after that, like, we literally can't go to the next life without ripping our souls from our physical bodies. That's the biggest damage ever. We can't ever go into the next life without hurting our bodies.
I wouldn't agree with that. The soul leaves the body naturally upon death.
Do you think that's immediate? Do you think that takes some time?
I think it is. I don't know. I mean, they say, you still have consciousness. Like, even if you're beheaded, you still have consciousness for about 13 seconds or whatever it is.
Yeah.
So, you're starting to transition out. And then once you're out, you're in Sheol instantly. Yeah. It's like a booting. You boot up and then you boot down. It's a shutdown process.
That's what I was gonna say. Yeah, it's about. I kind of see it as you're powering on a computer in the fully off position. Mm-hmm. Interesting. All right, guys, I gotta wrap up. I didn't realize I'm a little bit late. I gotta get the kiddo to bed. Ghost, any last burning desires here? Throw out.
Rest in peace, Rodriguez's father, and I'm glad she got to come on and say her thoughts. And sorry for anyone whose question didn't get answered. But I liked the stream, and go take care of your kid. I'll talk to you next week, I guess.
Yeah, I appreciate you, man. It's always a freaking delight. Thank you.
All right, man.
Okay, guys. So I am gonna add. I already added Reincarnation Part 2. So we'll, anytime we do these, basically, and to give credit where credit's due, very much so, because Ghost is here, and I'm not just talking, because you guys know it drives me absolutely insane. Thursdays used to be awesome, because there was like 6 or more people, and we were all having a conversation. Then they became me talking for an hour, and to be honest, I was losing interest. So I'm super grateful, very, very happy that Ghost is here. Obviously, he's wildly intelligent too and has very unique views on things, and I personally like that a lot, and I'm sure you guys too. But the way this is kind of shifting now, one, I'd really like to get some more of you to come on. Like Rodriguez, I think you're gone, but it was awesome that you came on again, like you did before. Very cool. If we can get more people to come on and have more of a conversation, that would be phenomenal. These Thursdays, I want to talk very minimal. I'd like to come on here. I'd like to maybe talk for 10 minutes and kind of lay things down. And then my preference would be for me to get the hell out and just kind of spectate, and you guys to talk, and maybe I'll throw out my opinion here and there. But this is what that was meant to be. That is what this is meant to be. Thursdays it's not the freaking Joe show. That's not what I want. So you guys just think about it. Think about getting rid of your apprehension to come and talk, and just come on. Even if you say one thing one time, come on, add something in. Ask your question vocally instead of through the chat. Like, I think once you do that, you'll be less intimidated, because I'm sure that's what it is for a lot of you guys. You'll be less intimidated. It'll be very chill, and just be more of a conversation, and have the chat be less and have the conversation be more. That's my desire. So think about it, consider it. But the way this is all kind of shifting, and I hope it continues to go that way, is a lot of these topics will be like reincarnation, for example. The first time we do it is kind of going to lay the foundation, crazy questions, kind of whittle at things and see, well, what do we want to talk more about? What do we not really care about? What do we agree on? What might need a little bit of argument about, debate, perhaps. And then we'll do a part 2 with more just like bullet points of, these were the main things you guys wanted to talk about. These are the main questions that were asked. Let's get deeper into them. Those will be kind of the part 2, and, possibly part 3, 4. I mean, some of this shit we could do for forever, realistically, because we don't have the answers. So there's endless speculation. But that's the plan. So anybody who's not in Discord, there is a link to Discord at the top of the chat. It is pinned. I will also leave it in the comment section of the video. If you have not liked the video, please do it, because it obviously helps with the algorithm and it gets us new people, which is what we want. I mean, we got Danny, we got Dumbcat, we got Ghost, we got a handful of new people recently, and that is because you guys are doing the algorithmic BS for YouTube. So hit the like button if you don't mind and you got a minute. Once I end the stream, just throw a comment out, whether it's an emoji, I don't care. Just put a comment in, because again, it's an algorithmic thing. It'll help us get new people in here. So I love you guys. This was awesome. Very, very good. Reincarnation 2 will be up. I'm going to post the poll for next week today. I have been so slammed, like working till 7 or 8 every night now. I have no time to prep for these anymore. So I have to post the poll Thursday nights right after we finish. The poll will close Saturday morning, because the weekend is the only time I have to try to do anything to get these ready. So that's the deal. So you'll see that poll go up tonight. Please just keep in mind, every Thursday night, the poll will be up. Make sure you vote before Saturday morning, because I need the weekend to get things ready so that we can do these and them not be a total shit show. So I love y'all. Everybody have a wonderful evening, and I will see you Sunday night for the start of 2 Corinthians. We will do a big, deep overview of what 1 Corinthians was, what was covered, what's the geographical, historical context, what was 1 Corinthians. We're going to get deep into that for anybody who was not here, because a lot of you guys weren't. So we'll make sure you're fully up to speed on what happened in 1 Corinthians. And then we're going to go into 2 Corinthians. You guys are going to see how different I do these, because this is kind of my cup of tea. So it'll be really good. Very excited. Love you guys. Love you guys. Love you guys. I will see you Sunday night to start our next Bible study. Everybody have an awesome week.